first 30 seconds where it's like, will anybody actually join, makes me doubt everything that I've ever done on Substack.
I'm not worried about you two guys with your audiences. Oh, two people are already here. Oh, Neil. Hey, Neil. Yeah. How long have you guys been on Substack? Why don't you tell me that?
Just over 2 years. I think I passed my 2-year mark without quite realizing it last month.
That's huge.
I'm coming up on 4. I'll be 4 years in April.
Wow.
Yeah, you remember the days before Notes, right?
Yeah. I got a full year before Notes, and it was interesting.
Well, that's cool. Well, Notes had to be already here when you came, Eric, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm almost 2 years as well, and I know everyone was still complaining about it, but it was here.
Well, that sounds typical.
For what it's worth, like that's how I came up with the idea to do all of this was across Notes, because I had a friend who, was tinkering with the idea of doing like a nonfiction Substack. He, picked my brain a bit about it and wanted to maybe have me contribute like some history stuff. It was just kind of an idea phase, but I was like, well, let me download the app, see what's there. And I forget who I saw or who popped up. It actually might have been you, Scoot. I don't remember. But there was some point where I was like, oh, there's people writing stories. Oh, that's what I want to do. And, one thing led to another. And 3 or 4 months later, I launched The Forge, and here we are.
The rest is history. Oh, look. Oh, hey, Leanne, S.E. Reed, Miss Cretans. She's got us pegged. Oh, that's too funny. Well, and it's really kind of changed your life, don't you think? Being on Substack?
It certainly changed my creative life big time, which has had a knock-on effect in a lot of other areas. What about you, Scoot?
Yeah, I mean, so I never really took my fiction writing seriously until I started publishing on Substack. I had always kind of dabbled, and there were people that would be like say encouraging things like, "Oh man, you should publish this," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, maybe
whatever."
Yeah, but then realizing that one, that I can write regularly, and 2, that people actually enjoy it, like in a more constructive sense than my mom or people. Yeah. That's been really cool. And then actually just the other day, a friend of mine was reading, I shared drafts, and they were like, "Man, you've gotten really good." And I was like, "Oh, that's I don't know, if I can." I mean, faint praise to have me complimenting myself, but that's what I mean. It's there's progress. Your writing doesn't stay standard, doesn't stay the same, and you don't even notice it. You have to look back at your archive to see all the growth that's happened.
Yeah.
But how about you, Anne? How's Substack been on in your journey?
I've loved it. I mean, it's given us, I think you feel the same way, a community that I certainly didn't have before, not for fiction writing. Mm-hmm. I've completed, at least, well, I guess I'm almost done with 5 books in the time I've been here.
Yeah, she's the real deal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing it weekly, and if you do it weekly, something happens, and we're going to talk about how that could be better. I mean, because my goal was originally to do that. I felt like I used to waste a lot of time on my phone playing games. So I said, well, let's waste time on my phone reading and publishing, and it worked. It really changed things.
So. Speaking of weekly serials and publishing books, Bridget Riley just joined. She was one of those. She was one of those people I saw. I think I got down in the holler somewhere.
I mean, all the books I have here. They're all throughout my house.
Yeah, here it is.
I need a Substack shelf. Oh, good. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I mean, she was one of those people that I saw they're people are telling stories. They're telling real stories. They're really doing it. And it's good.
I know, it's really good. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, my gosh, if you're not on Substack reading fiction, if you're a reader, you're missing it. Yeah. There's so much to read for free, which there's that, but it's really good fiction.
Well, the quality is insane. The people, just the fiction on Substack is just crazy talented. It is insane. And I'm not. That's not like a what do you call it?
Pandering? We're not
Pandering
pandering.
or like, grandstand.
No, it's true.
It's genuinely like some of the best stuff out there. Like we got some incredibly talented and creative people on this platform, and
Yeah.
it's just gonna. It's at some point there'll be a tipping point, and people are gonna start realizing it, and it's just gonna shoot off. But we're all still in that hustle and grind phase.
We are, and I keep thinking that there's all these different fiction groups. Like, I think I know everybody, but then I shift and go, "Oh, wait, there's
And
all
then,
these
suddenly there's like a crack in the wall and there's a hole in the room behind it and the network expands. I love it.
happening."
I love those
We need to
moments.
bring everybody together.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will help, but we are gonna, I'm trying to wait till we get to the actual 4:30 time. But we are gonna give parameters what we're talking about, because
Mhm.
as fiction writers, there's not a lot of good tips for fiction people on anywhere. I think it seems to be mostly geared to nonfiction,
Oh,
a
yeah, for sure.
and especially when it comes to serializing. And this is yet another fictional outlet that has its own rules and parameters, and I want us to talk about it because I know we've all had some experience with it, serializing, and that's that idea. Are you gonna be something serialized that every week you keep putting out the rest of the story?
Mhm.
That's what we're gonna be talking about.
Well, and serialization, especially serialization on Substack, feels like innovative territory to me. And maybe it
Yeah.
exists elsewhere. I know Wattpad is a thing, and I know there's other
Yep.
places that do it, but it's still very, very new to me. And I think the fact that it is like Substack is not purpose built for it makes it kind of an oddball in Substack, like as a whole as
Yeah.
well. So, like, whatever rules apply anywhere else, whatever rules apply to any other kind of storytelling, it's throw it all out the window because Substack's just a different beast entirely.
Yeah, it's a little bit the Wild West still in a good way. I mean, we've got
Yeah.
people who are out there carving paths and, being the pioneers and all the people like you, Ann, and others who, have gotten their books out, go weekly, and they commit and they just, they charge through and get momentum. And then next thing you know, they've got a book. And I mean, that's pioneering right there. But I still think it is the Wild West where we're still experimenting. We're still figuring out what works and
It's
what
not
doesn't.
locked in, that's for sure.
It's not locked
And
in.
and
I
we're
don't
just
know.
gonna talk about maybe another way we could do it.
Yeah, talk about maybe another way you do it. Yeah.
I mean, because the whole idea is we're creating these newsletters that are going out. And I don't know what I was into Wattpad for a little bit, but to me, it doesn't fail, but it fails in the way of it doesn't have this app, and the technology when it started wasn't like it is now. So I don't know if it didn't transition, but that's why I think Substack is unique.
Yeah, and I think some of that also stems from uh like the thing that makes Substack unique for anyone in any form of writing or any form of creating is that you own your audience, right? Is that it's your
Yeah,
email list
that's
and you
true.
own your audience. And Wattpad and the others,
You don't.
they can be successful for authors because there's an audience built in. Um, but it's Wattpad's audience, right? And
For sure.
so it's the incentives for the people who run the platform are not necessarily aligned with the incentives of the author. Speaking of serialization, I'm sure his name's going to come up a bunch. Simon K. Jones. He just had like kind of live stream turned into a post where he talked about what is a technical term and shitification
I
and
love
and
that. That was
and how it applies or doesn't apply to Substack. And he talked a lot about just like that single difference permeates a lot of the other dynamics at play in ways that Substack is different. It's not immune to problems at all, but it's just different than a Wattpad or the other serialized fiction platforms and certainly other social media platforms. So um, yeah, maybe his
that
name will probably come up again, but you haven't given
yeah,
that a read. Give that
Simon
a read.
should
Yeah.
be here. He's the one that probably has the most experience doing this, but he's on a different time zone. He's really outside of us, but he's sleeping maybe. Or
Yeah.
is he awake? I don't know. Maybe he'll pop in. Let's see. Oh, SC says, "Oh, the rules about who owns the content on Wattpad."
Wattpad,
Well
I have no idea.
well, I do know that in the beginning, somebody did get a book deal out of it. At least that they put that out there a bit.
Mhm.
So they obviously sold it. I think you still owned it, but who knows? That was like eons ago.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. we're
Couldn't tell you.
officially at our 4:30 start time, and we are gonna keep it to an hour. I'm just saying, 'cause, Ben Wakeman's doing a great interview. We should all, fiction-wise, hurry on over to that live stream right after we're done. But, joining me guys, introduce yourselves. It's easier that way. Scoot, you start.
All right. I am Scoot. I write fiction at Gibberish. I am just in a few minutes. I guess once this is done, I'm going to schedule my first post of a new serial. So it's called Before the Maps Are Final. It is a science fiction, Star Trek kind of style, episodic thing. It is not Star Trek. It's set in my own Sandbox Earth science fiction universe, but it is kind of got my own flavor to it in the kind of Star Trek adventuresome style. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow.
Bravo.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's what prompted this whole conversation, right? So I heard about that. I'm like, oh, I really want to see how this
So
goes because we're
that's
doing
gonna
some
be
interesting
just
things here.
slightly in action. Is that what you're saying?
What's that? Sorry.
For Scoot, the new one is gonna be sort of some sort of different kind of serializing?
yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
alright.
So this is the well, I'm getting ahead of us, but like the idea was that each episode would be its own like complete story, but then string the episodes together, you get a broader narrative arc that kind of contains them all. So
Okay.
uh
Well, let's
yeah.
Eric say hi first, and we're
Yeah.
we're gonna
Let's
yeah,
dive right into that.
we will get there.
Yeah. So I'm Eric Falden. I write and sometimes write about epic fantasy on Falden's Forge. I'm much less prolific than these other two people with me, especially Anne. But I write primarily short stories here on Falden's Forge. But I do have a single completed serial out that I published. I finished it last year, and as like similar to Scoot's upcoming serial, Before the Maps Are Final, my serial, The Samizot, similarly had every episode as a standalone story with a larger overarching story arc and final conclusion at the end. And so that's, I think, a big part of the model that we're trying to evaluate here and talk about that as it pertains to other models of serialization, and how people on Substack can leverage that, but also some of the challenges too. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I wanna learn all this. And hi, I'm Ann Kimbrough. I'm Tell Me a Mystery on Substack, and I have many different kind of mysteries that some are like cozy mysteries, some are mysteries with, paranormal and FBI even stuff. So it's fun, but it's like it's like a train that's going.
Mhm.
And once you start it, I don't know about you, I can never get ahead and stay ahead. So I come out right now, I have one comes out, it's every Tuesday. I have not finished Tuesdays. And this is the very end. I'm at the very end of it, which is really makes it harder. I don't know about you guys, but if you're making the final battle scene, I wish I had a month to write this whole one chapter, but no, I've got just a few days.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll be doing later tonight. But anyway, it's addicting. I will tell you that. One of
Mm.
the reason why once I started, it keeps going. And that's what I want to first ask about that's standard serialized work is that you start it supposedly keeps going forever. It's like I don't know, Game of Thrones. Is it a TV
Mhm.
show that you keep feeding an audience whether you have one or not? Well, is it sustainable?
Well, I'll just speak for me. I could never pull it off. I know that flat out. My pace of writing is not fast enough. My life does not allow the kind of time and commitment that I kind of want to give it. Even now when I'm not really on on a hard schedule. And so I know that for me in my writing life, that kind of pace would quickly grind me into dust. So I mean, I have amazing respect and admiration for the people who have the chutzpah to do it.
I don't know, it's chutzpah, a little nuts. Dude.
yeah, I mean it's I let me put it this way, like I think I've written notes to this effect, but like there's a saying that war is the proper school of the surgeon. I feel like serialization is the school of the writer on Substack at least. I have never learned more than when I have been kind of pushing through these serials. It's just it's intense. It's one of those things where it's like yeah, I go in with all the best of intentions. I knew at the beginning of February that I was going to be starting this serial at the beginning of March. And I was like, I'm going to get 3 weeks ahead. I am finishing the first episode tonight. So that tells you how all of that goes. I'm already, and I was just earlier before I was on this, I was commenting to some friends. I was like, oh man, I'm serializing again. I mean, I love it, but like I'm serializing. So it's, yeah, it's a lot, but it's
Bridget says the same with her. So, and there's someone with a lot more experience than me. Yeah. So the opposite side of that is it worth it? I mean, this is like my second, I call them seasons of this one, Darkly. So that's 2 books, and they're normal size books, maybe 60,000, 70,000 words. Audience falls off. I mean, there is a problem of people like it, but life gets in the way and then they're behind. And I mean, it's all still there to read, but I can see that the readership falls off. And at some point you're like, it's very hard for them to get into the story. And obviously I do recaps, I have stuff like that, but I don't know if there's an answer to bring people back into the story, or does it make sense to do something different so it's easy to get back into the story? What do you think about that?
Well, I think like the 3rd episode glyph is like a real thing. Like it's you gotta just know that it's going to happen regardless. But I think, I mean, we're dealing with kind of 2 different things in my opinion, because our job as the writers is to tell a complete story. So we've chosen the format to tell that story, which is serialization. So we're going to tell it regardless. It has to get out there. The job of the readers is to read, and they're going to read at a weird pace. I've had people come through months after a serial is done and binge the entire thing. I've had people keep up with it week after week. People's reading behaviors are just different. And sometimes they just can't keep up with it. And it could be any factor. There's no perfect way to do it. There's no way to optimize like the time of day, which day of the week, this, that, or the other. It's not going to happen. Like one way or another, something is going to happen and throw people off, and they're just not going to be able to keep up with it. But a lot of times people will come back. I've done that. I've started reading a serial, gotten interrupted, and then I'll just binge. I think Bridget's what is it? I just did the Esther remake. What was it? What was it?
Scepter? That's a Scepter?
Yeah, that's right.
Because then there's Hannah Delaney who's doing Salome at the same time, and I keep getting my wires crossed.
Yeah. So the Scepter. So I've started keeping up with her.
Yeah, the Scepter. Okay, yeah, she confirmed it.
Yes. And then I lost track of it. So then I would like just binge in tranches. I think I ended up binging it the end in 2 big chunks. So yeah, it's you got to let the readers do what they're going to do. And it sucks because our natural impulse is to want to keep people on the hook and, get that dopamine week after week.
Well, I get that part because I'm not putting it on the reader, but I'm putting it on us as serializing wrong then in some ways. Should they be shorter serialized stories for this format?
So I've got thoughts.
Let's hear it.
And they have a capital T. And they're probably unpopular.
No,
but I'm going to say that these are my opinions, because honestly, the real honest answer is that whether or not serialization is worth it depends 100% on what you were trying to accomplish. I think, was it Seneca says that if you don't know what port you're sailing to, no wind is favorable. Right?
I like it.
I learned that one at 15 and, put it in my pocket. It depends entirely on what you're trying to do. I think that if your primary goal on Substack is to grow your subscriber base, serialization isn't necessarily a great way to do that. I think serialization is a great way to grow a loyal audience. I think it's a great way to draft a book. I think it's a great way to move towards the goal of having a long form piece of fiction, right? I've been on Substack 2 years. I don't have anything in print yet, right? The only thing I could really put in print would be my one serial, okay? It's all about your goals. Is your goal to grow in commitment, right? To your own writing and to your audience? Doing something weekly is a great way to force yourself to do that. Is your goal to just write more, right? Like there's a million things. It could be a personal challenge. It could be a creative challenge. It could be to get something into print and into bookstores. Like there's a million different goals that you might have that serializing on whatever cadence for however long, and serialization is really, really good for those goals, right?
That's really wise. I like that.
Now that said, and this is where I get to the unpopular
Very
stuff.
true. Really? Okay, good.
I put on my marketing hat a little bit, and I'm thinking, because my day job is in marketing. I'm drinking throat coat tea right now because I've been in marketing meetings all day, where I've been presenting stuff all day. So my mind is just like on this track right now. But if your goal is to grow your subscriber base and grow your audience, imagine the new subscriber who joins your newsletter, and then the first thing they get is chapter 8.
For me, it's like chapter 50. It's because it's a second season. So I think about these things. This is important. This isn't uncomfortable. Right. I mean, it might be uncomfortable, but it's not unpopular.
Well, yeah, uncomfortable might be a better word. I think of it almost like a highway, where it's like, where are your on ramps and where are your exit ramps? Because chapter 1 is the on ramp, and every single chapter after that is a potential place for people to fall off, even if the story's good, even if these are loyal readers. Sally saying every email is someone's first email. That's like that's so important here. Like, no matter what, even if the story is amazing, right? Think of the best book you've ever read. More people have read chapter 1 than have read the last chapter. Right? That's just like kind of a law of the universe. More people will see the pilot episode of that huge Netflix show than have watched the finale, no matter how popular the show is. That's just always going to happen. And so none of us are going to be immune to that at all.
Right.
And so if you're going to say, I'm going to spend X amount of time on a serial, then that means you're posting for X amount of time with one on-ramp. And the only on-ramp is to send them back to the first post. So this is why I can't do it, because when I see the people who have serialized on a weekly cadence and still grown their audience very quickly, they're also doing other short stories, they're doing microfiction, they are resharing other things, they are doing other events in the midst of their serials, so that there's still a lot of on-ramps for their audience, even while they do the weekly thing. And I don't have that kind of engine. I just don't to do all that at once. And so that's the uncomfortable part of it, is that if you're thinking about just pure growth, which is not the only goal, and it can't be the only goal, and it shouldn't be the only goal, but if you're thinking about that as the goal and what's worth it, there is a real opportunity cost to spending time on that. And so something to consider.
Let me present I guess it's not really a counterpoint. It's more data. Let me throw more data.
Yes.
Advice that I gave a friend one time who was fretting about publishing a serial episode late was that story will spend more time as a link in an index than it will in that gap between expectation and
right.
Same with the whole serial, is that the whole serial is going to spend more time as a completed work on your Substack than it will as a work in progress. The work in progress is a commitment. It's a way to get a finished story. But then what the real value of serials in the long term is being able to share an index page that's got the entire thing. This story is done. Go read this. That's your business card. That's what you give out to people. But you gotta get through the hard part of actually writing the thing. Like that's, again, writing books, writing serials, writing even short stories. There's no way around doing the hard work of actually just writing it. But once it's done, you can share that. And then that's like we're talking about with every email's the first email. You put a bunch of on-ramps to everything. Here's my start here page. Here's my, I have a navigation for newcomers page. That's just kind of like, hey, I'm new here. I like, what's going on? Like, kind of like simplified version of a start here page. all of those things. Here's my ebooks that you can buy. Here's all this other stuff. Here's a community. Here's people that I like that you should also check out. Put all of those on that one on the index page, and then there's your business card. It's got everything, and you can just hand that off. And so the whole from the lifetime of a serial, which writing it is only is the smallest part of it, because it's going to spend once it's done, it's there forever. It's a finished story.
Yes.
So from that perspective, uh, that the index is the on ramp. I like that on ramp thinking that you're talking about, Eric. So, but it's. I think we get caught up in like, how is it performing now while I'm writing it, versus what can I do with it over the lifetime of this thing.
It's a good way to look at it. There's a lot of great stats that they throw at you. Sadly, maybe that's the downside of Substack. I hate those, but because you can't not see them.
Mm-hmm. You can.
Well, you can now, right? I haven't tried.
There's a setting. There's a setting somewhere that you can. Let's like I don't remember what it's called. I don't know how to get it because I personally don't use it. But you can turn off the stats so that when you go into your settings page, you're not bombarded with all that stuff.
Oh,
yeah, it's only there when you go searching for it.
I might need to do that in your free time. But I think all this feels really true. It really feels like what we're living with, and I agree. You got to know what you want out of it, and then you get it.
If I could just follow up again, just to echo more of what Scoot is saying, like, Sally's saying right here, engagement is not a helpful metric for serials, especially. Like, there's a lot of real truth there, because the value of the serial is in having it completed. The value in the serial is it's sitting right here on my desk, right? This is a serial. Can't wait to get some of y'all's too. There it is, right there. You're holding the value of your serial in your hand.
Season. I'm almost done with season 2.
Right.
So that's great. It's a good
and that the value of that can't be understated, right? But the reason I bring that up is because I have seen people who especially are maybe new to the platform and trying to find their audience, and they maybe have a book in mind or a long form story they really want to tell, and they dive into telling that. And on one hand, it's like, that's great. Tell the story you want to tell, cut your teeth on it, like, go for it. On the other hand, but what do you really want? What you really want for this thing to just exist? Or do you really want like this audience to grow? Not that it's just about the metrics or subscribers. Like, what do you want? And make sure that what you're doing is aligned with what
I want both.
Right.
I think maybe.
Yeah.
Serializing might not be the answer. So is there another way I'm not saying that everyone should do it one way or the other, but I now like to jump into how Scoot is approaching serializing, because maybe it'll have more on-ramps as you're going, it's not every 25 releases, you got a new on-ramp.
Well, so, and I might be a bad example. I mean, because yes, the serial that I am about to start is a different format. But one of the things that I really like doing is experimenting with the form of serials, which is why I'm doing this way. I had Letters from Armin is like a science fiction. I call it Pride and Prejudice in Space. It's kind of like a romancy but epistolary serial. And I published one episode every 3 weeks, which was just to experiment with like, what are the tolerances of serializing? Can I publish something once a month? Can I publish something at a weird cadence and have people follow along? And a small number. I mean, it was, I got to measure my proportions, but like, people did follow along. It was a small cadre of people who did follow along for the whole thing, but they did. So, I've done a couple epistolary serials. So anyway, the innovation with this one before the maps are final is that I want each episode to be kind of self-contained. They are sequential. They are, because I know, like, compared to the Samizdat was like, you could read these particular ones. I know the ending was sequential, but like, some of these you could read in any order, which is really cool. I still need to dive into the Samizdat, but I love that concept. For these ones, I'm trying to tell a historical narrative, but without history being the main point. I don't know. I don't know the way to describe it. Like, Children of Men, that movie, where like there's like big historical things happening, and then you have main characters that are like trying to cross through it. Like, there's a scene towards the end, that really long, famous one shot one like uncut scene where there's like a big march and a protest happening, and these people are literally cutting across it to get somewhere. I like writing stories that are like that, where history is not the main focus, but it's happening in the background.
Mm.
And how does it affect the people that are in the story? So that's kind of what I'm going to be trying to accomplish here, where there's like big events that are happening, and then everyone on this ship has to figure out how they're going to respond to that. So we've got all the self-contained stories set up because like it's the Surveyor Corps stories. It's going to see new planets and explore them, and all the dangers that are inherent in that kind of expedition. But then you have all of this like everyone's bringing their own baggage with them onto
Yeah.
the ship. So how do they handle that? That's all details of the story, but like the reason why this format seemed to work for me, at least when I was kind of like conceptualizing the story, is because I wanted like there's too much happening to follow one character through the entire thing. So by having kind of like a rotating cast of characters, it kind of decouples the audience from latching on to like a particular character too heavily and forcing them to kind of like take a bigger picture view. Like, how does everyone like that's what I hope happens. We'll see if I kind of can deliver on that. But that's also a very particular kind of reader. That's a very particular kind of story. That's not going to be something that appeals to everybody, and it could be confusing, for people going through that or like kind of experiencing the serial live. So it's one of the reasons why I experiment with all of this stuff is to see, like, again, what are the tolerances of serializing on Substack? What will an audience respond to? What will they not? If they really respond strongly to, like, I love these self-contained stories that have a bigger arc, then maybe that's kind of the pattern to go with, like kind of TV style, have a season, have like a subplot with each episode, and then a super plot for the whole season, that kind of thing. But like also maybe they won't respond to it. And I go back to like, one character, one adventure, one kind of big story that's happening. So, I mean, we'll see, but that's that's why the advice that I tell people most often is like, just treat your Substack like a living experiment. I know I've been filibustering, but like, just treat it like
go cook.
Treat it like a living experiment and try things, and then eventually you'll land on something that is effective and that you will like, and that your audience will like. And that's what we're all just trying to find, that tension between those two things. What do I like doing? What does my audience like reading? And how can those things combine?
That's a great point, because I do want people to read it. So if I'm just doing it, I feel like it's just for a few people. I'm like, I want more people to be there and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm doing something wrong if I can't pull in more people. But my thing is, are you talking about like point of view chapters in a way? Like are the same kind of characters in different standalone ones? So you see
Yeah. So
more of them from another point of view?
it's the same ship through the entire
Oh, okay.
story, but it's a crew of 4. Every episode, one person goes off, one person comes on. So I have it set up so that we'll spend a good chunk of time following one point of view through the story, but eventually they will roll off. They're not going to be they're not going to be a POV that starts, and they're not going to be the POV that ends. But we'll get a big chunk of the story through one person. Because I mean that's kind of a narrative. Like you kind of have to do that. You want to give people someone to root for and that kind of thing. But it yeah, I wanted that kind of ensemble cast because yeah, I don't know. It's just like there's a lot to explore, and I wanted to insert a lot of different personality dynamics, and it's hard when you get the same characters and you kind of get attached to the characters. You get comfortable with how to write,
Right.
and you can't have them kind of flying off the handle randomly. So like you almost have to have some way for them to interact with the world. But when you're on a ship, you can't. So
Yeah.
it's kind of my way of solving the problem of like, all right, you can't just walk around and read the newspaper. You got to have someone bringing the world into the ship with them, and then that's how they're engaging with it.
The other reason I'm really excited to read this is because like what you're describing is a unity between the kind of story you want to tell and the medium of like what like the structure. Sorry, 3 things: the story you want to tell, the narrative structure of that story that it requires, and then married to the medium of serialization on Substack. Because you could just say, I'm going to tell the story of the plucky crew, sailing across the universe, having an adventure of the week. That works. That's not the story you want to tell. You want to have it kind of be crossing these big historic things. And so in order to do that, there's this book, Scoot, you might like, called Canticle for Leibowitz.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, we did a live stream about it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Scoot and I. But it's these 3 vignettes where it's all of these huge historical things happening in the background, but you're focused on 3 different characters, more or less, across time and space, and they never actually meet, but the themes are across it. So like there's elements of that, I think, happening a little bit in your story from what you describe, and that there's that the changing cast will actually draw into sharper relief the larger things you want to be showing, even though that isn't like the focus of the camera, so to speak, right? Plus you have the burden of doing it on distinct episodes in a certain cadence, like weekly, and so you need some kind of structure to say, okay, lose one, gain one, lose one, gain one, lose one, gain one, which keeps kind of shaking the jar a little bit for your characters, but also gives the opportunity to play with those bigger things around. But it also unites itself really well to your, practical medium of serialization and prose writing there. And so like, that's the kind of like tinkering with the gears and trying to fit the puzzle pieces together that I really like about Substack serialization.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're saying in the chat too that it does fit more serializing like TV, where you can have one issue is solved within what you're
Right.
giving.
The
But
episode ends and everyone
yeah,
goes
but
home
there's
and then you
a
come back next
higher
week.
rate. There's a story arc,
Mhm.
there's a season arc in television, and the characters can stay and remain. So we at least we know them. And I guess if we missed one episode, we might not be missing the whole boat, right? So I think in your case, someone could miss 1 week, but if I suddenly want to read week 5, I'm not lost. I'm just coming into the story at a different angle.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like a sitcom. If you watch any episode of, the classic, like,
Friends.
80s, 90s, 2000
Yeah.
sitcoms, right? Friends or Seinfeld or whatever, even The
Right.
Office, like if any episode is your first episode, you'll still be able to enjoy it and laugh and get a sense of the characters. And maybe there's some context clues you might miss, but you can usually pick up on context anyway. But like, that's it. And it works. And it's more rewarding to go through it over time in order, but any single one of them could be the on ramp. And that's that's also the problem I tried to solve with Samuza, which was a challenge.
So what
Yeah.
was the pitfall to this then?
It's so well. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's harder because I've never done the normal kind. I don't know. Is it harder? It again. That story was 9 episodes spread over 10 posts, each published in like a batch of 3. So I did 3 over a month, and waited a couple months, and then did another 3 another month, and then waited a few, and then posted the last 3. And the challenge of making any single one a standalone story is, well, there's a few challenges to it. One, you can't kick things down the line.
Mm.
Scoot, I don't know if you found that already with episode 1, but like, oh, I got to wrap this up now. It has to be satisfying now.
Yeah.
I can't do a cliffhanger. I can't leave a thread open. Like this has to be a complete whole. And that is going to just take more time, I would imagine. And also that ballooned by word counts. I'm a terrible
Yeah,
example.
what kind of length are we talking about for these installments?
I think my shortest one might have been 4,000,
Oh my gosh. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a terrible role model.
No.
I'm not saying that's what other people should do. I'm just saying that's what I did.
Well, I have a bugbear about word counts. because I see people complain sometimes that like, this story's too long for Substack. This story, the ideal reader is reading for maybe like so many words, but like consistency is the name of the game. I feel like
Yeah.
your growth is rewarded by delivering. I mean, trust. That's what like Hamish Mackenzie talks about all the time. I know S.E. Reed talks about this all the time. Other people variously talk about this, but like by if you promise, like I am going to deliver 4,000 word stories once a month, people will show up for that.
Mhm.
They just want to know what's coming.
And
I agree.
and just to go back to goals for a second, I'm not shy about the fact that like this is the kind of crap I want to write. You know,
Okay, cool.
like that, that'll kill a chihuahua. You know, like that'll kill a small animal. So if I'm upfront with my folks that like that's the kind of stuff I aspire to write, then I don't know.
I
If you,
agree.
if
I
you
don't
want quick 1,500 word chapters, then you won't like what I do. Sorry, you just won't. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, it's a lot harder to write a standalone in that amount of time anyway. So let's
Mhm.
put that out there. I actually come at that from more of a reader standpoint. I read this stuff on my phone, and I
Yeah,
don't want to sit at my phone for 4,000 words.
absolutely.
Sadly,
I
I
get
would
it.
have to read
I get
somewhere
it.
else. Yeah. So I would change my reading habit of what I'm reading if that was the case. But I totally agree that whatever you set up as the parameters, people are going to come for that. So
Mhm.
there's no wrong way to do it.
Right.
And I do think in this model that we're talking about, longer is probably better.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, you need to
Well, for a
give yourself the
standalone.
flexibility to be able to tell complete the story. Because like I mean, so when I started writing fiction on Substack, I intentionally did 250 word writing exercises. And my reason for that was there were a couple reasons, but 100 words felt too short. 250 words was like just enough to get some kind of a story. But what I like, I, st- I, what I learned most from that was uh, like where are the places where I start cutting corners when I am like artificially constraining my writing. Like
Yeah.
where are the efficiencies that I need to get to be able to tell something that's moderately satisfying in such a microfiction kind of format. And the more so I mean, early on, I really had trouble. I didn't know how to kind of tell a story. The very first writing exercise I did, I didn't have a word count constraint. And so I just started like waxing poetic and there's no end in sight. I was like, how am I like, what is this? Like, I'm just kind of like filibustering my own story. Like there is
You're
structure.
figuring it out. That's okay.
Yeah. Like, but there's structure helps stories. And the more
Yes.
room you can give, the more kind of like detail and the more fleshed out these things can be. It's like the difference between like I mean we were talking about like Seinfeld, Friends, those kind of shows, and then like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad was like it was like they had a complete story in mind from the very beginning. They
Yeah.
needed a format that gave them the time to explore it
Yeah.
properly and tell this story properly. Like they could not work in a 30-minute window once a week for however long, you know.
Mhm.
That's just not the format. So
Come into the middle of season 3 of that show, you're not
Yeah.
going to know what's going on. It's not going to make sense. The characters don't make sense. It's not worth your time.
Even Better Call Saul. Yeah, you really need
Yeah.
to watch Breaking Bad first. If you
yeah.
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 So there's it's you've got to like every decision you make about your serial has trade-offs.
Yeah.
Like I tend to only do the 12 episodes because I personally need to have an end in sight. If I can't see
Yeah.
the end, I'd start despairing and I can't do it. But and you do really long like
I
stories,
mean, I'm doing
entire
a book.
books. Yeah. So and
But
that's
each one of these is only 2,000 words each chapter. So
Mhm.
I stick to that, or to
yeah.
2,500 is my biggest.
So you give yourself the
But
space to do that, and that's
right.
important because you
Right.
know what you're accomplishing, and so
I do outline. I highly recommend outlining
Oh yeah, that's the other thing too.
anything.
I full outlined
I couldn't
from
wing it
yeah.
every week and write the next one if I didn't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I'm not that crazy.
well, and that's
But you can't change it. I mean, I can for the book, but I want it to make sense for my reader that's
Yeah.
joining me every week.
yeah. Well, and that's something that I know S.E. Reed has talked about the practice makes process, which I really like. The only thing that I would add to that is like consistency is what gives you the groundwork, like the stability to figure out what you need to do quality. Like so the reason we do the same thing every week for serializing stories is to help us iron out what is our writing process actually.
Mhm.
I did not start by outlining, but I have developed my own way, and it's still not perfect. But like I, I've had to kind of like invent it on my own again as I'm going through writing all of these things. But the other thing that I'm learning that I have to do is if I do not protect time in my day to write, then I can't write well because it's if I don't know when I'm going to write, I don't have a stable groundwork to be able to start investing in like, all right, well, what can I do in this time? This if I've got 30 minutes, I've got an hour. What can I do to optimize, like not optimize in the like tech sense, but like optimize in the like what are the best words that I can produce in 30 minutes? What are the best words I can produce in an hour? And then like, what can I do with those? So I don't know. It's like, you got to set yourself up for success before you even start publishing anything.
Yep. Yep.
And all of that groundwork leads to your, whatever your story is going to be. And it all like is part of the story. Like story is just the external manifestation of all of this work that happens on the front end before you do this. So yeah, it's like a lot of, you got to put in that thought beforehand. Otherwise you're going to flounder and it's going to be hard.
And I'll tell you, doing a chain of standalone stories does not dodge that necessity. Again, I had 10 episodes. I had 9 episodes. The last one was a finale that I split in 2. But when I set out to write the thing, I knew where I wanted the story to end, and I knew how the story would begin, and I knew I had probably 10 to 12 episodes total, and I had about that many ideas. And I think only one story wasn't on my initial list of things that I wanted to be stories. Like one of them I came up with in the middle. I'm like, this would be a good to slot in right here. And I wrote that and published that one fairly quickly. But otherwise, like I needed that outline. I needed all of that. Because especially in that story, the story starts with the tragedy, and then episode 2 is a tragedy, and episode 3 though actually is a tragedy, and episode 4 is another tragedy. But I knew I wanted a redemption arc at the end, which means I had to like plant all those sort of hooks in this guy's, like the main character's like heart, essentially, that would then get like pulled at the end to kind of pull him out of his dark cave. But I needed to know where all of that was going. Otherwise, it was just going to be just a terribly bleak, awful story, which is not ever what I set out to do. I just did it 8 times in a row, and then redeemed all it in number 9. But I had to outline it because that was the only way for me to know where the story was going and whether or not each episode was going to be valuable on the whole, and not just valuable as a adventure of the week. So because that's what made it a serial rather than just a recurring character in a bunch of short stories.
Good point. Well, I often outline as I go.
Of course, yeah, right. It's like no, none of outlines never survive contact with the enemy. But I always need one.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I'll think I got 2 chapters left, and I'm like, oh no, it's 4. Because you get into it, and you're like, oh, we might as well live here for a little bit. I've had you this long. I'm going to hold on to you a bit longer. I still want to know, because I still believe that you could write standalones with an overarching other story. I'm a cliffhanger person, so I could not write anything, even a standalone that didn't have some after thing to say, come back, because there's more of this. So there'd still be a cliffhanger, but I would solve one problem within it. So I would end it, but I would tease. So
that lends itself very well to the mystery genre as well, where it's like the Sherlock Holmes kind of situation. I was thinking because like I have characters I've thought about doing that with, and like I wrote a kind of tech noir Duel.
Yes, I love Duel.
Yeah.
with Detective James McElroy and his robot sidekick. Um, I love those characters. People had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
They lend themselves really well to like that kind of format where like, all right, they're going to go on like adventure of the week, as Eric, you've been calling it. They go and do this thing. But I mean, really, the only reason I haven't done that is because I have all of these other ideas that I'm trying to shotgun through the fire hose, and I just can't. I gotta, I gotta prioritize. So
Gotta focus.
eventually, I'll come back to them. But yeah, but like again, you got to work with what story you're working on. I mean, like you can tell you could probably do an adventure story with a long overriding arc, as long as they weren't in a hurry to get anywhere.
Well,
Right.
think of Indiana Jones. Those were based on serials that went in front of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they were originally for when they were little kids. I don't remember that. I'm old enough, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I did with that, because I with mine, I was concerned about, that overarching story. And because it was so character driven, I mean, the stories themselves kind of had like a lone gunman, stranger comes to town, kind of the quiet, stoic guy with a dark past kind of vibe.
Shane.
Um,
Western Shane.
yeah, I didn't quite set out to do a Western, but I think it was my friend Ian who told me it was a Western, and like, oh yeah, it is. And that helped click things for me. But even though whatever story or conflict or problem I introduce in the beginning of each episode will get more or less solved, the character is not in a place of like peace and resolution, right? And that's why each one kind of is his own sense, some kind of tragedy, because each story again is a standalone, beginning, middle, and end. There's a resolution, but especially for the longtime readers, I wanted to make it in such a way so that by the end they still want more for this guy, right? Or they still want something for him, and he is in a different place physically and emotionally than he began in.
Well, and shout out to Leanne in the comments. She said that a good character becomes the cliffhanger. And I think that's speaking to exactly what you're
Good
talking
point.
about, Eric, where
Mhm.
when readers become invested um,
Right.
in the characters, and the characters are compelling and going through like a believable and relatable kind of trauma,
Mhm.
um, readers will stick around for that investment. Like that's
Yeah.
that's an important part, and maybe that's what we're talking about when we're talking about engagement. We're talking about like
It is.
how do we get readers invested in the story. Um, to like either to follow or to like or to buy it later, how like what are the and that's a storytelling element more than it is a Substack thing. And if we are constrained by the medium to tell us to write a serial, to have something weekly where we are pinging everyone's inbox with a new episode of this story, how are we going to make that the best opportunity for people to you know relate to these characters, to feel excited that they're going to hear from their good friend, the Samuzat,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
um which, now that I've said this, I'm realizing I've got a little bit of an extra challenge because I'm not going to have the same characters every week. So that's going to be interesting to see how I handle that. But
But you have enough of a bridge. Like,
You
that's what I
have
mean.
true.
Like, I think you've done a really good job of like looking at the dials and looking at the settings and figure out the shape of the pieces, and you've got a plan for how it's going to fit together. And like that's why I'm so excited to see you do it, because I think this will like I'm going to be paying attention from
too.
a from like a
No,
No,
you know what I mean though, like from a narrative perspective, I'm like, oh, like this is going to be really cool, like
yeah.
this is going to be a really cool experiment,
Not in a
so
judging way, in a
yes.
yeah, no, not in a
supportive,
judging way, in a like, yeah.
exciting, we can't wait to read it way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
So I don't know if we
uh,
wanna take any questions, or you guys have any more thoughts you wanna add into this. We got about 15 minutes if we really wanna end on
I I would
totally good.
I would love to get some questions, but there's one thing I kind of want to add
Yeah.
first while people think of maybe something. For what it's worth, my Samizot cereal did more or less solve for me that engagement problem fear that I had.
Hmm.
because I was doing other things in between and I was doing the other kind of growth things that I wanted to do, each episode was delivered to more people than the previous one. And each episode, just about, I think, if I remember correctly, every episode had more readership than the last. And that's just a factor of the fact that like my audience was kind of growing at the time. And that's the opposite of the distribution you would normally see in a traditional serial where, you have to go read episode 1. And so, but I was like, but are people going to go back? And when I looked at it like 3 or 4 months after I had finished it, I had that index page, like Scoot said, right? It's going to spend more time as an index, as a completed story than it's ever going to spend as an incomplete story. I found that a lot of the general readership and engagement on kind of all of the stories rose pretty evenly across the 10 episodes. Some of them are more popular than others. The first one, of course, is the most popular because that's one I link to on every one. If someone thinks I'm going to start it, they're going to go there, then they're going to bounce because they don't like it. And the last one was, I think, popular because the characters come back. It's when, I've reward all the longtime readers. I don't really care about the first readers there. I tell you explicitly, if this is your first one, sorry, go to a different one. But otherwise, like, I don't know if it was worth the work. I don't know if I would encourage people to do it, but I think I mostly managed to solve the problem I was trying to solve in terms of the on-ramps. For
Well,
what it's worth.
if there must be a generalizable lesson from that, it's that experiments are genuinely helpful.
Right.
Like there still is not a standard way to do serials that everyone has cracked that knows that this is how fiction will work on Substack.
I'm not saying other people should always do this for serials or that their goals are the same as mine or anything like that. I was trying to figure out an on-ramp problem, experiment, and I was happy with my results.
But if you're a new writer on Substack and you're trying to look for how to write a serial, look and see what other people have done.
Mm-hmm.
Eric's model is a good model. Anne's model, that's a good model.
Well, yeah.
My model, we'll see. But it's
I think it'd be good.
There's options to try. So if you can't think of like how to do something yourself, look what else is out there and see if you can replicate it.
Yeah. Big time.
That is good. I'm not seeing any direct questions. I like what S.E. Reed says about how reader excitement does count a whole lot when she's picking something new that might be intriguing to look at.
Yeah.
Obviously engagement, I think it really helps. It's got to help. It's got to help with where it pops up, and so I like the idea of on ramps. If we've said anything that's not, and I've heard it before, actually from S.E. Reed, that that it's important to remember that the first time your newsletter is going to someone, they're just seeing that maybe, and they haven't read anything. And in my case, I'm giving them chapter 25, and I have a link to the other books. You can buy them and read and catch up, or I have my table of contents, but I don't have any really great on ramp. And I'm wondering if something video, I like to create stuff like that. That might be a way to say, hey, I don't know. I did try that briefly once, like between books, between seasons of a serial. I did say, so, hey, here are my characters. You can watch this AI thing I created. And I got views, but I don't know if it made people jump into the story. So this whole idea of more of a standalone episodes that belong into a bigger story, I think that's many more on-ramps. I like that. I want to try it.
I mean, it's a good way of thinking about like what are my on-ramps? Whatever your story structure is, what are the things that people are going to click to begin their journey through your serialized story, or even just around your Substack. So like having
this applies well beyond serials. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the navigation everywhere. You do need that. I mean, because on your phone, the Substack app, it's really hard to get to that website. On desktop, it's easy. I have a great website through Substack that I'm like, whoever sees this, like very few people see it. It's great. It's got tons of info. And that's why you need the links that will take
Yep.
people there in the app.
Yeah.
Yep.
And different varieties and different like different things that people are interested in. Maybe it is the podcast. Maybe it is a YouTube kind of book trailer. Maybe it is a standalone story that's particularly popular. Like just have put ticklers out there and
Yeah.
and see what people resonate with. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time. You can experiment. I mean, again, just treat it like a living experiment.
Yeah.
If you don't like the results that you're getting from something, then try something else.
Right. And try something new and think of the story you want to tell and then find the best way to tell it. I think that's the secret sauce, unite it to the medium as best you can and try to deliver it in a way that serves your reader, and navigation is huge too. Again, S.E. Reed brought it up below. I think we all mentioned it. Navigation is so important. Again, I don't know if there's like a true best practice I don't think we've hacked it as a group of Substack fiction writers. I know some people I think do it better than others. I know my navigation became a carbon copy of what Bridget Riley did for her serial because I was like, I was able to navigate it really easily. So I kind of did the same thing. I added a big disclaimer on mine that says like, this is a serial, but they're standalone. So you can read in any order. Keep reading, you won't be lost. But if you want to go back, here it is. Like I put that in big bold letters right at the top. I think that helped. I don't know.
Any link is better than none. Because there are a lot that it just jumps right in and I'm like, oh, I'm the wrong one. And then I've got to go and search and find their posts. You go to their posts and then you can find the first one. I've done that before and scrolled through. So not a lot of people are going to do that. I'm like, dog it. I want the first one. So here's a question.
Yeah.
How are you solving the numbering issue of your episodes? Like I have episode 58. Thank you. And someone will instantly say, no, thanks. Yeah, that's probably a problem with mine. Mine says episode. Well, I'm coming up on 51. So yeah, if you saw that, I agree. I wouldn't read it either.
I definitely don't put it in the main title. I think I'll do it in the subtitle, but I also haven't had a story that lasts longer than a year. Even the story that the one that I had 3 weeks between episodes, I intentionally structured that to complete within a calendar year. So I haven't had one that goes that long, but I mean, having visual cues can be helpful so that people know visually it's the same story, even if you don't put the number there, or you have the number kind of like just in the standard image that's like in the corner or something. So it's not like the words that people see. Anyway, there's a bunch of different things.
Go change mine right now. But yeah, I did do that. But I also have been writing for people that are following it with me. And then when you get into it, it's right off the bat, like, hey, this is what this story is. And if you want to start from the beginning, this is where you go.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
right.
And,
go ahead.
Sorry, I don't have a ton of good thoughts here, but Sally did mention in the chat, right? She says, I think for serials, leading with the title is better than the number. Again, much like TV.
So I have both. I had the title, but
I think starting with the title, even if you have a number elsewhere, is really
you
important
need the
because
title. Yeah,
it's like, what are you? Yeah.
Eric, how did you handle this with the Samizdat since they're nonlinear?
Well, to be clear, the anecdotes are linear. I call them anecdotes rather than episodes because, whatever. They do tell the story of this guy's life over the course of 15 years, 10 episodes, right? So like there's huge gaps. But I named every single one like I would just a short story. And then I put in the subtitle saying like, this is the first, this is the third, this is the eighth anecdote of the Samizdat. And then I said right at the beginning, right in big bold letters, in case that scared anyone, of like, this is a serial. It's part of a collection. I don't think I even used the word serial. I think it's like, this is part of a collection, but every story is standalone and you can read them in any order. Which is like technically true. I think they make the most sense going in chronological order, but that's how I did it. I didn't put any numbers in the title.
I will say that once I did to help readers catch up if they wanted to catch up fast and not read every installment. I had it in my installment that I went through and I highlighted in bold certain words that if you just read through the article and read all the bold stuff, you'd get the gist of what happened and you could just move on. And I did that for a while. I found like a few people liked it. I don't know. I just didn't get enough feedback, so I stopped doing it. And it was just for one of my series. So I don't know. It's useful to try stuff.
Yeah, and that's a creative solution. I hadn't considered that.
The other thing that people have been mentioning is like the previously on, right? Like the recaps. Again, Simon K. Jones, I know he does that for his
I recap. You have
his massive, Triverse serial. Yeah, I think that stuff is really vital. My only hesitation there is that I don't know, and this is me genuinely, I don't know. It's not like saying I won't. I don't know if that would be enough to like still hook in a reader who is coming in halfway.
No.
Right?
I don't
Because
okay, so, I don't know if you read Coomer's stuff. His
Mhm.
very first book with it, and these are adventure stories, I just jumped in the middle. They were maybe it's the kind of story I read the and this was, like a year ago or so, but I read the recap, and then I just started reading the story and went, "Oh, this is fun."
Yeah.
I never went back and read I don't know how many chapters I missed. Sorry, Coomer. I never went back to read it because I was off. I was off to the
Yeah.
races.
Yeah.
So technically, if you hit it the right spot, I guess it would work.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you walk into your living room and someone in your family's already
Yeah.
watching a movie and you just sit down and watch, it's like,
Like
yeah, like it can still work. It can still work for some readers. I'll tell you, as for me as a reader, there have been times I like get that and I'll be like, oh, I want to read this. I've been wanting to read this serial. So I start on chapter 3 or whatever. And usually my problem is that I'll go like, oh, this is really good. I want to experience the whole thing. And so then I'll put it aside and save chapter 1, and then maybe I get to it, but maybe I don't, you know?
But yeah, I hear you, and that was why my thing, and so yeah, I you couldn't do that with a mystery, like you'd miss too many
Yeah.
things. Action adventure, yeah, you could do it. It was fun. Any last thoughts, guys? We'll release you into the world at the right time. But this has been great because I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna think about what you're doing. I'm gonna read what you're doing, Scoot, and I'm gonna try something here.
Yeah, I mean that's if there's a last word that I would have, it's that if you are someone who is writing fiction on Substack and you want to serialize, you should do it.
Yes.
Don't get out of your own way. There's no wrong way to do it. Just
Right, no wrong way.
Don't let mean Eric tell you otherwise. Do it.
yeah.
You're not mean. But never once did you say you shouldn't do it.
It's true. Yeah. I just want to echo that. I think you do it. And then I would, because he already said that, Scoot, I'll add that, go in sober about what your goals are.
Yeah.
And then chase those goals without fear or flinching.
Amen.
Bravo. Well, let's end on that. Thanks everybody for joining us. And we're going to do a part 2. I don't know when, but we're going to test this out. We're going to let.
I think we wait until Scoot is in the darkest hour, deep valley of this serial. Right?
Wait until you see me say like, oh, I can't publish this week. Wait until next week. Then you're like, let's talk.
Right.
Let's talk. How's it going?
Talk you through that.
Gonna wait until his beard's going gray from the stress, and we'll rope him in.
So given enough time to test this and for us all to read what Scoot is doing, we'll then have to come back and say, what do we think?
Awesome. I'll look forward to it. That sounds like a great plan.
Sounds great.
Perfect. All right, guys. You guys be safe out there and have some fun writing, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for putting this together, Anne. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for joining me.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Take care.